What's up guys, Aaron here. So in this video, FTX recovery updates. I'm going to talk about clawbacks, how much of your claim you are probably going to get back, the timeline for getting your claim back, all the dates over the next couple months and into 2024, and then I'm just going to summarize everything at the end of this video. So if you are an FTX creditor, I suggest you subscribe to my station because I am going to be covering this in great detail all the way up until you get your money back. So I'm going to cover this entire 67-page document where it goes over exactly how much we will be getting back and all the details with what just came out on the docket. And at the end of this video, I will summarize everything, going over what they just put out, what FTX just put out, including their summary of everything that I'll be talking about today, including how much money you guys will be getting back and how it'll be coming back to you, including the future dates for getting that money. So timestamps will be included, so if you just want to jump to a certain part, you can absolutely do so. So starting out, a little bit of backstory, and then I'll get into the juicy parts of this video. So FTX declared bankruptcy on November 11th and November 14th of last year. So July 31st of this year, the debtors, meaning FTX, filed their joint Chapter 11 plan of reorganization. So really what happened, and what I'm going to talk about later in this video, is everybody wanted to settle all of their disputes relating to who owns the property, the customer property actions. So this article goes on to define certain terms. I'm not going to bore you with that stuff. One thing to note is that anytime you see .com customer entitlement claim, anytime you see that on any document, that means the FTX.com exchange. So I believe that means mostly international people because they do differentiate between FTX.com and FTX US, which I'll cover later in this video. So basically, they have put forth this agreement, which talks about how much people will get back, which I'll cover in a second. Also clawbacks, so if you possibly need to send money back into the estate, which again I'll cover in just a second. So they talk about how this agreement would become effective, meaning how this would become exactly what happens, which as of now, I really hope it does, because customers are going to get back a lot more than they thought they would have. Basically, the official committee and the debtors, meaning FTX, needs to approve this. So here is some of the timeline coming up. So by December 16th of this year, the debtors, anytime I say debtors, it means FTX, they need to have filed the amended plan, which they did, the disclosure statement, which they have not done yet, the estimated motion to approve the disclosure statement, and also the solicitation materials. So that means all the materials that will be going out to customers like yourself, if you had money on FTX, to try to convince you to vote in favor of the plan. So all of that should be out by December 16th. Then the bankruptcy court should have entered an order approving the solicitation materials and the disclosure statement no later than March 1st of 2024. Next, the bankruptcy court shall have entered the confirmation order no later than June 1st. And then the plan effective date shall have occurred no later than July 1st, 2024. So if this goes as planned, which being involved with Celsius since day one, we know that things usually don't go as planned, and any dates that you see are the best case scenario. So I would not expect, as an FTX creditor, to get any money back from the estate before September, October of next year, just to give you guys what I think right now. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope summer of 2024, everybody gets a nice big disbursement of their claim. So this is their term sheet, and this goes into everything that you clicked on this video for. So a little bit of the background, not going to go into this, background of what happened. Then they talk about the customer property settlement. This basically, which I'll cover later in this video when I summarize everything, there is a dispute on who owns the property, and this document that I'm reading right now does clarify this. And again, it's very good for creditors. So a couple things to note, they are going to be valuing your claims in US dollars as of the petition date. So the same methodology was used for every crypto Chapter 11, including BlockFi and Celsius. So what this means, if you're new to the bankruptcy world, is that what your claim is locked in at a US dollar amount, and that is not going to change. So when we begin to hear more and more about how much we will get back, or how much you will get back as a percentage of your claim, you have to think of it as a US dollar amount that is not going to change. So I'll talk more about this in the summary of the video, but there's going to be something called shortfall claims, and this is going to benefit all of the customers. They are going to cancel the intercompany claims. That means one company or affiliate that has a claim against another one, they are going to cancel those. And they are going to do the same thing that Celsius Network did. They are going to substantively consolidate all of the debtors' estates. So what that means is they're going to treat all the estates of FTX as one, just to make it a lot simpler. They're also going to subordinate certain claims, which is appropriate because certain claims should be subordinated, like those connected to the insiders or the management, like Sam Bankman-Fried and the other people. Those claims will be subordinated. Subordinated means brought below, sub, order. If there's an order of claims that get paid out, they will be moved to the bottom of the list. Here it says the subordination and extinguishment of FTT claims in recognition of the equity-like characteristics of FTT. So this is very interesting. Basically, those that had FTT, to my understanding, or if you had FTT tokens as part of your claim, those claims, your FTT is not going to be paid back. It will be at the bottom of the list, or it'll be subordinated beneath your other claims or the other tokens in your claim, because they say it is like equity. Now, right now with Celsius Network, there is a current battle going on between Cell Token, and there could be some correlations here or some comparisons to FTT and Cell Token, but we don't know that yet. So more about this substantive consolidation. Here it says that under the plan, the estates of all the debtors, meaning that all of FTX's estates, all of its subsidiaries, there is this whole network and tree of all these different companies interrelated to FTX. They will all be substantively consolidated, meaning treated as one. Some of these debtor subsidiaries will be liquidated and wound down, so we won't know exactly which ones yet, but that doesn't really affect you at all if you're just a customer. So just to clarify again, we have .com customer entitlements. Anytime you see .com, that means FTX.com. So if you held NFTs on FTX, which I didn't even know was possible, NFTs will be returned in kind to the applicable customer unless the NFT is missing or was destroyed. So they are not going to be liquidating or converting NFTs to US dollars. They are going to be giving those back to you in kind, which is very interesting. So here they talk about convenience classes. Now, following Celsius for so long, I have in my brain what a convenience class is there. I don't know the exact amount that qualifies you for a convenience class, but there will be a one-time distribution in cash at a fixed amount to be determined in the plan. So maybe they have not determined that. For Celsius, it was if your claim was $5,000 or less, you're going to get 70% of your claim. For FTX, I'm not quite sure what those amounts will be. Here again, all intercompany claims and interests will be compromised and eliminated in the plan. So if one company owed another company, or one company again had a debt towards another company, those will be eliminated. And this just makes it a lot easier. This just makes it easier to deal with all the different entities and all the craziness that Sam and his cohorts got everybody into. So they're also going to subordinate claims for regulatory fines and penalties. So again, this just gives more money back to customers, which is really good for you guys. So here we talk about preference claims, also known as retail clawbacks. So there will be about a 9-day look-back period. Now, I'll compare this with Celsius Network just as I'm talking about this. With Celsius, there is a 90-day look-back period. So much better for FTX. So basically, if you withdrew money more than $250,000 within 9 days or from 12 a.m. Eastern Time on November 2nd, 2022, you could be pursued for clawbacks if you withdrew, again, net more than $250,000, which I'll cover in just a moment. And if your net preference exposure is above $250,000, you will be asked to pay 15% back. So we'll cover that a little bit more in just a moment. With Celsius, it's way worse for creditors for clawbacks. They're looking at 90 days before the bankruptcy petition date, and their cutoff is $100,000. So anybody who withdrew more than $100,000 and you have 90 days, they're looking back, they're going to be pursued for clawbacks. So this is a lot better for FTX if you took money off the platform. So ultimately, if you removed any money from FTX, I am probably going to suggest to you guys that you accept the plan, because that basically will release you from them coming after you. Once the disclosure statement is out, I will talk a lot more about voting, but just a heads up, you are probably going to want to vote yes if you withdrew money from FTX. But if you are an insider, or you are a current or former employee, or you had actual knowledge of the fact that they were commingling and misusing customer deposits and corporate funds, then you will not be released from clawbacks, most likely. So for insiders, you will be pursued. That is the same with Celsius as well. I'll touch back on clawbacks in just a moment. There's a chart that kind of goes over the differences, how you fit into that category. And I believe there is a Telegram group for people that have clawback exposure in FTX. So if you have not subscribed, I suggest you do so just to my station, because I will be sending you guys to the proper places and channels once I really nail down where those are. So here they talk about how they will implement all of this. They say that the debtors, meaning FTX, may decide to start a new company in a jurisdiction outside of the US to operate a, quote, rebooted offshore platform not available to US customers. So there may be a way to get equity in a NewCo or new company. And this could be a way of repaying people and getting people closer or fully whole on their claim. They talk a little bit about the venture investments that Sam and Caroline did, and that could really be a way that customers get a lot of their money back. They say that this FTX Ventures company will hold on to FTX's illiquid venture capital, and then they will be making cash distributions to the wind down estate on a time horizon to be determined. So essentially, these illiquid investments will possibly be held to then pay everybody, kind of like distributions, or some of them I assume will be sold for cash. And here is something really, really interesting. It says the debtors, meaning FTX, also intend to explore alternatives to provide creditors, like yourself, a voluntary election to receive early cash distributions. Man, so that would be amazing. I really wish that Celsius did the same thing, because Celsius, it's been like a year and a half almost, or almost a year and a half, and they have not given anybody the option of getting any money out. And with FTX, it hasn't even been a year, right? It'll be a year next month in November that they declared Chapter 11. So for them to even talk about giving people an option to receive early cash distributions, maybe that'll be at some sort of discounted rate. Like if you want your money now, you're going to give up potential upside. But that is super important, because a lot of people had their life savings or so much money on this platform and they need it out. So here, talking about the different classes of creditors. Now, this could be a little bit confusing. If you've been following Celsius or BlockFi, this will look pretty familiar. So when it says impaired, that means that you can vote on the plan. So we have the .com customers, that'll be the FTX.com customers, US customers, NFT entitlements, so those of you that held NFTs, and then we have all these other classes that will be entitled to vote on the plan. Voting on the plan will happen probably April, May of next year. So we have a long time before that'll happen. Again, subscribe if you have not already and you are an FTX creditor, because I will be covering everything that you need to do here. So now they're talking more about clawbacks, and they give this diagram here of different customers that had a similar $1.2 million claim. So basically they are looking at your withdrawals that you did in the 9 days before they declared bankruptcy. So from November 2nd right here to November 11th of last year. So if you withdrew more than $250,000 in this 9-day window, you are being asked to pay 15% back. In this example, they withdrew $6.3 million and they deposited $5 million. So that means their net preference exposure was $1.3 million. And if they want to settle, they'll pay 15% of that $1.3 million. So there's a couple different examples here. One, basically, if you're below $250,000, you don't have to pay anything back as long as you vote in favor of the plan. So I'll be making a lot more videos about clawbacks in the future for FTX, but as of now, that should give you kind of a head start if you fall into that category. Let's talk about the summary of this entire video. So This press release was released on the 16th, so about 2 days ago. So here it says that customers are expected to receive over 90% of distributable value if the amended plan is approved. That is a big freaking number, 90%. So a lot of you guys are pissed that I did not start the video with this number. But if you made it this far, you learned a lot about the bankruptcy process and you have a better understanding on what's going on. So this is the overview. Let me just read it for you guys. The customer property litigation asserted that customers of FTX.com and FTX US had property interests in certain assets, meaning it was their property. The customer shortfall settlement resolves this dispute by providing customers a claim against the FTX debtors that, although unsecured, has an equitable priority to certain property segregated at or taken from the exchanges. Yikes, that was a mouthful. So this customer shortfall settlement, that is what they are saying for the fact that there's not enough money to pay everybody back. There is a hole in the balance sheet, HOLE, hole in the balance sheet. But maybe customers are going to get back 90%. And that would be amazing. John J. Ray said that the debtors and their creditors have created enormous value from a situation that could easily have been a near total loss for customers. And that's what a lot of people were thinking. I mean, not too long ago, FTX claims were being sold for 10, 12, 15 cents on the dollar. And now they're going to be sold for a lot more. We'll go into that in a different video, selling claims, but basically the value that third parties or hedge funds or investors were willing to pay or pay customers for your claims were much less like earlier this year than they are right now. Because people believed and thought the same thing as John J. Ray, that this could have been a near total loss for customers. So the FTX debtors are going to divide all of their assets into 3 different pools. The first one, assets segregated for the benefit of FTX.com customers, then assets segregated for the benefit of FTX US customers, and a, quote, general pool of other assets. The shortfall claim is estimated to be approximately $8.9 billion for FTX.com and just $166 million for FTX US. The FTX debtors estimate that customers of FTX.com and FTX US would receive collectively over 90% of distributable value worldwide if this amended plan is approved by the bankruptcy court by the end of the second quarter of 2024. So for FTX.com customers, there should be a greater percentage of loss than FTX US customers. And also FTX believes that non-customers, so people that did not have an account on FTX, those that have claims against the general pool of assets will incur greater percentage losses than customers of either exchange. So this is really important, and the fact that customers are basically being treated higher or more important than non-customers that also had claims against FTX. So guys, that is basically it for the video. I'll just end the video there. Again, I encourage you to subscribe to my station if you are an FTX creditor, because just like I did with Celsius, I'm going to be covering this every single step of the way to make sure that you don't miss out on voting or getting your assets out or all the steps that you need to do. So thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, talk with you soon, and bye for now.